Órale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. I'm your host, Jorge Martin, and we are on YouTube, Familia. Please, por favor, give us a like and subscribe. Would really appreciate it. This NFL Insider series is continuing here. We've got an invitado de lujo that I just can't wait. But first off, I just want to remind you, go to fantasypoints.com. We have, go some of the best fantasy football content that's out there. I mean, you just got everything. You got Graham Barfield's best ball tiers. You've got they've just started 32 podcasts, 32 articles, all this content leading up to the start of training camp. You got key off-season moves. You got Scott Barrett's strength of schedules, Graham Barfield's pace and tendencies, John Hanson's final points. You got data points from Chris Wecht, Brett Whitefield. You got, projected fantasy contributors from Joe Dolan and Jake Tribby. Joe Dolan is doing a beat writer series, kind of similar. Ours is, similar to what we're doing here. So you can't have too much information from the people who are boots on the ground. Just so much. You got Dynasty Bylaws from Wes Huber Familia. You got to get that subscription. It's going to help you win your league. Make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com. Use the promo code Familia22 or Familia22 if you're doing it in Spanish, and get 10% off your subscription. So Familia, we got another return guest, another invitado de lujo. I was re-listening to the interview that we did last year, and it was so spot on. There were a couple really, really great takes that came on, so I had to bring him back for this. So Lester Wiltfong Jr., I'm just so thrilled to have him back. He is the editor-in-chief at Windy City Gridiron, and let me put his information right here. And he's the co-host of the Bare and Balanced podcast, host of the T Formation Conversation. He's got video on Second City Gridiron. So, just so much stuff. When it comes to the Bears, I had to come to the man himself, Lester Wiltfong Jr. Bienvenido, my friend. ¿Cómo estás? How you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing good, man. That's a great intro. I love it.
Well, I just wanted to make you feel like you're in your house. Estás en tu casa.
Yeah.
Estás en tu casa. So, I just, big changes for this offseason. Matt Eberflus coming in as the new head coach. Luke Getsy coming over from the Green Bay Packers, the hated Packers. I hope I was forgiven by now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But can you give me kind of a little bit of a look-see at this, at the kind of the coaching breakdown, a coaching change, and also because I have looked at the kind of the pass run splits for the Packers the last couple of years, and it's been pretty close to the middle. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of see the coaching change kind of impacting the offense primarily?
Yeah. It's Luke Getsy's bringing it over. It's a Kyle Shanahan style offense. They've talked about it. With Coach Eberflus, he said, when he picked his OC, he said he wants to get an offense that gave him trouble when he was a defense coordinator. And that's why he picked this style of offense. And I think that shows already right there. That's a plus in my book for the coach. He wants to do something that he knows is tough. There's several teams in the league that run it. It is a tough offense because there's so much things that look similar on it. The play action, it all marries the run game with the Chicago Bears and Matt Nagy the last few years. It's like he was pulling plays out of a hat sometimes. The stuff, there was no cohesion. The runs didn't match up with the passing game. Nothing looked like it should have looked. It's kind of like a baseball player. He's tipping his pitches. And that's kind of how it was with Matt Nagy the last few years. So with Luke Getsy, with a Kyle Shanahan style offense, there should be a bit more flow to the offense. And of course, that helps a young quarterback. Play action is a young quarterback's friend. A good running game is a good quarterback's friend. And the Bears have talked about trying to do that. It's still the NFL in 2022. Teams don't run. It's a passing league. It is, but the Bears are going to be more committed to running the ball a little bit this year.
One guy who's going to be running things quite a bit, Justin Fields. I remember we talked about a lot about him last year. You talked about the excitement level for him, like a typical rookie. He had some uneven performances up and down. Had some really good ones in prime time. I kind of want to get an idea what he's looking like. I saw some of the reports. He had some good days, some really good days, some uneven performances. What is the look starting from the passing game in year two?
I mean, he's a second-year quarterback going into an offense that he's running for the first time. So yeah, the offseason hasn't been as flawless as Bears fans want to see, but again, he's learning the system. You know, he's putting the work in. He put the work into the offseason. He's just one of these ultra competitive guys that he's gonna figure it out. And I think when Justin Fields gets rolling, I think it's gonna, the offense is gonna look like an NFL offense. And Bears fans haven't seen that the last few. Again, I hate going back to Nagy so much, but that's what the Bears fans have known the last few years. You know, bottom three offense, bottom 3 yards, bottom 3 points. His offenses just couldn't get it done. So hopefully the scheme. Again, we haven't seen Luke Getsy call plays. It'll be his first time as a play caller, but he's been around some fabulous coaches, throughout his time, coaching. So he has the pedigree, he has the resume, he has the knowledge. So hopefully he brings it all to the table. But the passing game for the Bears, it's going to be all on Justin Fields because there's a lot of unknowns at the wideout. So he has his top guy in Mooney, Darnell Mooney, but behind that, we got to see how these guys all come together.
It's where do you say, he was such a deep ball specialist.
Yeah.
When he was at Ohio State, some incredible wide receivers. Obviously, it's unproven talent. We're going to get into the wide receivers in a few minutes. Has there already been talk of making sure to incorporate the deep ball into the game, into the offense?
It's funny you mentioned that because as a rookie, he was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL with his deep ball efficiency. He was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL through play action. And of course, Matt Nagy didn't run it very often. He didn't have a lot of chances going deep. He didn't have a lot of chances in play action. And they've talked about it. They want to emphasize his strengths this season. So we will see him taking more deep shots. That's one reason why he gets sacked a lot a year ago is he does want to hold the ball a little too long. Because he's looking for the big shot when he wants to make a big play. He's a playmaker. He'll have to reel some of that in the NFL because it's not always going to be there, especially with the Bears. The guys in front of him aren't the best right now. So he'll have to reel some of that in. He'll have to understand when the check down's there, take it. Sometimes it's better just to get the easy yards when it's there instead of waiting for the big shot. But the deep ball will be a big part of what the Bears want to do this year. And, they added some speed to do that.
And he's also one of the most dynamic athletes in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's got a high end speed when he takes off and runs. That's top 2 or 3 in the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks. Looking at how much is that looking to be incorporated into the offense, because Luke Getsy didn't have that as the offensive coordinator with the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers, one of the best, but definitely in the time that they were together, it was not he was not the running threat that he was earlier in his career. How much are they incorporating him?
Yeah, I mean, this offense, it helps to have an athletic quarterback because there's a lot of bootlegs, but we've seen plenty of guys that are unathletic have success. Matt Schaub, Peyton Manning has had success, obviously, in this. These guys aren't the greatest athletes, but Robert Griffin III, as an NFL comp to Justin Fields, what he did in his first year with Washington in a Shanahan offense, he had a ton of yards on the ground. I think it's just an added dimension to what the Bears want to do, because when you do have those bootlegs and those rollouts with Justin Fields, he's a dual threat now when he gets out there. So from a fantasy perspective, his yards may not be there from passing, but he'll make up that with the stuff he can get with his legs for sure.
So I'm gonna wait on the running backs a little bit, because we've already touched on the receivers, and I think it makes sense to just kind of jump into them real quick. Darnell Mooney was one of the guys that you mentioned to me on this podcast last year as a sleeper for the season, as a guy that you thought was going to take a step forward, and boy did he. Now he is the number 1 receiver. He, obviously he was that the second half of last season with Allen Robinson being out a lot. How much does him having that mantle, is it gonna fit? Is the crown gonna fit for him?
With him, even as a rookie, he showed that desire to be great. The first thing he bought, the first big purchase he bought when he was a pro, was a jug machine. He wants to work on his hands. He bought 2 jug machines for himself, one for here, one for when he's back at home. So, he wants to put the work in. Him and Justin Fields became close friends, last year. They worked out all offseason. That continued through the year, continued this offseason. They worked out several times together in the offseason. You know, he's not the traditional wide receiver one. He's not 6'4". You know, he's not a big body guy like a DK Metcalf, but he is, you know, the Bears' top guy. He's like 5'10". He did add some weight this year. I think he may be 185-ish, something around there this year. So, but he did put on some size. The speed is there. He has great speed, 4.4 guy, good route runner. You know, last year he kind of showed what he could do when he was the focal point of the offense. This year, the receiving core around him is a little iffy, a lot of question marks there. But you know, the Bears believe in him. You know, they did not go out and get a top guy this year because they felt he was the guy that could continue building off what he did last year, be a true number one in the NFL, and that's what he looks like he is.
140 targets last year. That, I mean, we almost look at that as a base level.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the targets, I think that he will be the top targeted player again for the Bears. They brought in Byron Pringle. I kind of see him fitting more in as the slot guy, but he may be a starter, but he's going to do a lot of work from the slot. He had a nice year in KC last season. You know, that was their one big name at the receiver. Equinemius St. Brown hasn't done much in the NFL with the Packers, but he comes in because he knows the offense really good. He's a guy that he looks the part. He'll be your X receiver, probably 6'5". Again, another fast guy, 4.4 speed. You know, he'll stretch the field. He'll get some of those crossers that the Packers have run in the years past. So I think, you know, his production's going to pick up a little bit. And then, of course, the rookie Velus Jones Jr. You know, this guy is like, you know, when he was drafted, a lot of Bears fans are like, why are they taking this old rookie? He's 25 years old. You know, when he was drafted, you know, he's an older rookie. But I got to tell you, you know, through camp, he's been a talk of camp as far as the offense goes besides field, because he's really professional already. I mean, he just looks the part. He acts the part. He puts the work in. And unprompted during the press conferences, the players talk about him. The coaches talk about him because his speed, his explosiveness, it's flashing on the practice field. Now, again, we're talking about a rookie. You know, he's probably going to be your wide receiver 4. But he's your kick returner, and he will have some special packages built in for the offense just because when he has the ball in his hands, he's electric.
And that was the thing. I saw a couple of reports that, you know, he had guys beat, made a couple of drops on long balls that where it would have had to made a great catch. But yeah, it's kind of like, I think there's the hope that some of those, you know, a few of those deep balls kind of come through. You know, from a fantasy perspective, obviously Mooney is a guy who's draftable. The other guys are we looking at them more as streaming options? Because I don't see. Do you see? I don't see the volume being with them on a consistent week to week basis. What do you think?
From a target share, it's going to be Mooney. He's going to dominate the targets. I think when you're talking Chicago Bears, I think probably their tight end group and their backs get the next most targets. I think Byron Pringle, again, I see him working out of the slot, but he'll get starting reps and he'll be in there quite a bit. If there's another guy at the receiver core that a fantasy player may want to look at, it could be Pringle, but that's late. Like maybe a guy that you kind of monitor how he does, because again, when he was in KC, you know, they used him a lot of the ways where out of the slot. They've used him a lot of the stuff where they wanted to get the ball in his hands because he's a pretty good athlete. He has, you know, he's a thick, you know, built receiver. You know, he can get some yards after the catch. So again, you may see them trying to scheme him up some looks. And like I said, he was the one guy they brought in, you know, this offseason at that receiver spot. So if there's another guy besides Mooney, it's probably Pringle, but I'm not drafting him.
Yeah, I'm looking at someone like him as maybe kind of like a waiver wire player.
Yeah.
Against a defense that's not that great, you know, and you've got guys in the bye weeks or something like that. And that's the way I kind of look at those guys. Mooney to me is definitely a guy that is worth going after. I mean, I think where is he going off right now? From a wide receiver standpoint, he is. I'm looking at he's the wide receiver 24, going number 66 overall. So he's going right there with Marquise Brown, Brandon Cooks, Cortland Sutton. So he's in good company. He's a guy that got big expectations for him. And I think offenses I do like it when offenses are concentrated like this from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah.
So please thank the Bears for doing that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, he should have a nice year. Like we talked about the target share, it's going to be him. I mean, he has that connection with Justin Fields. I mean, they're working out, like I said, now they're working out. And I think they're in Atlanta right now doing some work. So they have a connection, and that connection shows up on the field as well.
Okay, we're going to go to the running backs before we go to the tight ends because I really want to get your thoughts. David Montgomery was very much used like a bell cow, a lead caballo, as especially the last couple of years. You were really high on him. He looked like he was doing really well. He had the injury there. I think it was a hamstring, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, something with the lower body, I believe.
But then he came back and he still finished the season strong. He's going into the season as the RB18, kind of going in that third round range. I know the Shanahan offenses like to bring in multiple running backs. With him going into the last year of a contract of his rookie deal, could he be the guy that maybe kind of breaks that and gets a really, really primary share and is kind of like a little bit of a bargain for fantasy?
I think it's possible. And I know, like you said, he had a little bit of a down year last year, but he was still a factor in the passing game. I think he had like 50 some odd catches a year ago. So, he'll still do that for you. The thing is with last year, why he played so much more than Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert had a nice rookie season, but David Montgomery just understands the passing game better. He understands the blitz pickups better. So if that aspect of Khalil Herbert's game is improved as a second-year player, I think we should start seeing some of those touches go more towards Herbert. I can't see the Bears doing a full split as far as things. I think it still will be with David Montgomery as the top running back there, the top target share, the top touches. But Khalil Herbert's a pretty good football player as well with the ball in his hands. And he also seems like a more natural fit for the outside zone scheme. Now, of course, Shanahan offense is not all outside zone, but they want to do that. Some of that they want to do, get the ball out there and stretch it on the outside, and that's more Khalil Herbert's game. But Montgomery, just a good football player. Like I said, it's the last year of his contract. The Bears have talked him up. They like him. I know a lot of Bears fans don't want to see the Bears pay a running back big money, but the Bears have talked about how they believe he's part of their future. He may want to, put the work in and really, a lot of times you see these guys in their final year of the contract, they have huge years because they want that payday. So Montgomery, he's playing for his next paycheck.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. You touched on Khalil Herbert. He had that stretch. He was actually a very viable player when it was his backfield solo.
Yeah.
When Montgomery was out. It's always interesting to kind of think. Look at the way the offensive breakdown is, and is it almost too easy? I mean, when it comes to the touches with multiple running backs, it's almost too easy to look at the way AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones were used and compare it to David Montgomery. I mean, I know Montgomery is definitely going to be involved in the passing game, which is it's huge for fantasy. Huge. Love that. Let's touch on the tight ends real quick because another guy you liked a lot last year was Cole Kmet, and he definitely took a step forward last year. What do you see more growth right now going into year 3 with him as a primary target for the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, he had 60 catches a year ago, and the thing with Cole Kmet, he had no touchdowns. But when you look at Cole Kmet and what happened last year, the Bears still had Jimmy Graham at tight end. He was the red zone hog, so to speak. He was the guy the Bears would put out there in the red zone at tight end, and he's gone now. So Cole Kmet, 6'5", 265. He's another guy that added some size this offseason. He wants to be a better blocker, and you can physically see it in the pictures. He does look swole up. I mean, he's a bigger player, so I think those red zone targets should go to him. From a fantasy perspective, obviously you need those touchdowns, and he had none a year ago. So I think you're going to see some touchdowns with Cole Kmet. The catches, he should be right around 60 or so again. This is a good offense for tight ends. I'm not sure he's going to get up to the next to where he's one of the top tight ends to take, but he's definitely one of those guys that you want to keep an eye on a little bit later. Get a chance to take him because he is the most talented tight end on the roster. They have some veterans in there, but this is going to be Cole Kmet. He's a decent blocker. And if he keeps improving that part of his game, he's going to be on the field quite a bit.
Yeah, right now he's the tight end 13 in average
Okay.
draft position. So he's kind of like right there on the cusp of being a starting tight end, and he's right there with Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry. He's kind of sandwiched in between them. Pat Fryermuth is in there, so he's kind of like in that range with those guys. And that one is going to be, just the fact that this could be such a compressed team as far as where the touches are going. I mean, Kmet, is it conceivable that he could be the number two or at worst number three target in the passing game?
I think he's going to be, because this offense, because it is a bit play action heavy. We look at the Packers with Robert Tonyan. He kind of came out of nowhere and had a nice year. He was hurt, of course, last season, but prior to that, he had a big year with touchdowns, big year with
Mhm.
catches. Look at the tight ends that have played in this offense. Now Cole Kmet's no George Kittle. George Kittle is ridiculous, but again, this type of offense, those play actions, you get those tight ends sneaking out a lot. We talked earlier about Justin Fields having to know when to take the easy stuff. The tight ends in this scheme are a lot of times the easy stuff. He sneaks out on a play action, he comes across the middle or goes out to the flat. He's often wide open. Justin Fields has to recognize that sometimes. And if he does that, Cole Kmet should be, as far as the target share goes, second or third on the team.
Awesome. Any sleepers that you see? I mean, we've talked about a bunch of guys that it's hard to see some sleepers in this team.
In this offense, I don't see it. I mean, it's going to be, for fantasy aspect, it's Mooney, it's Kmet, it's Montgomery. Those are really the only three guys I see worthy of drafting. For dynasty, I know I wanted to get Velus Jones, just because I see the upside in him. I didn't get him on my league this year, but he's a guy that I was looking at. So if you're doing the dynasty, because I just think from the kick return game, I think once he gets more comfortable in the NFL offense, I mean, in college, I mean, a lot of people talk about how his age was there, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. I mean, like I talked about, he came in so professional. I mean, he came in ready to work. He understood this is his job now, and he's putting all the work in. The coaches, they love what he's doing right there. So maybe by the end of the year, Velus Jones may establish himself more in the offense. But from a fantasy perspective, it's just those top three I mentioned.
No,
Besides Justin Fields, of course. I mean, his running, that's going to help there. He's definitely draftable. We'll see what happens.
Justin Fields, he's one of those guys. I think I have him and Trevor Lawrence as guys that are going as second quarterbacks, like either in a super flex or backup quarterbacks in single QB, that could pop. And it's like I like those high upside guys, especially with Fields having such incredible. I mean, you could look at him as having a very similar season to Jalen Hurts last year, and I love that. I think that's a great possibility. That's why I love him as a pick this year, and I'm grabbing him. I've grabbed him on best ball drafts. Before we hit record, we talked a little bit about the offensive line, and this was a unit that was not great last year. You already mentioned that a little bit. They definitely drafted volume this year. So what do you see in this group as far as can it take the step forward to put that wall so that Justin Fields could take the deep shots?
GM Ryan Poles talks about how unhappy he was with the pass pro, the O-line a season ago, and he did rework it. I mean, he made a lot of moves. He brought in a new starting center in Lucas Patrick, of course, with the Packers. Kind of a part-time player in Green Bay, but he had quite a bit of starts both at guard and center. But the Bears want him to be their starting center, so he'll be the guy at center. Cody Whitehair staying there at left guard. And then other than that, it's kind of up in the air. Right now, they have the rookie Braxton Jones, fifth-round rookie out of Southern Utah State, so some smaller college, but he looked good in camp. So far, he's the guy. We'll see what happens when the pads go on, but they like Braxton Jones. And then last year's second-round draft pick Tevin Jenkins, he's the backup now. He hasn't been able to crack starting lineup at right tackle. Larry Borum, who got quite a few starts a season ago, is right now they're running with the ones at right tackle, but the Bears talk about wanting their best five out there. I can't see Tevin Jenkins not being one of their best five when it's all said and done. When the pads come on in training camp and he gets a chance to show how physical he is, he's a nasty player. I think he'll win a job there. But right now the whole lot of Bears fans are concerned with is right guard. It's Sam Mustipher, who was last year's starting center. The first big move the Bears made was to replace him at center. But now he's kind of lined up as your starting right guard because they don't have anyone. I think a move's coming. There may be another vet added at some point, especially when the cuts happen. Maybe they see a guy they like, they kind of plug and play at the right guard spot. But on that line, the tackles are young, and the right guard is a big question mark. So yeah, there's some issues at the O-line for the Bears.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. I mean, we all know that's where the games are won and lost. That it's no secret that the top teams that end up in the high PFF rankings on the offensive line, those are the teams that go to the playoffs. So, building that wall, especially if you got a young quarterback that you want to make sure to take that next step. So, hopefully, on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, the secondary, I want to ask about the secondary first, and just against the pass in general. This was a team to target last year. When you had opposition. So,
yeah.
So, what's the outlook this year? Is this still a group that's kind of reworking against the pass?
Well, it's a new scheme. I mean, they were running the Sean Desai, the Vic Fangio style scheme last year, but honestly, they didn't have the talent. I mean, they had Duke Shelley, they had Kendall Vildor, they had Marquis Christian. These guys are getting meaningful reps in the secondary last year, and they're just not very good. So it was tough to do anything. But I thought Sean Desai did a pretty good job. But this year they're doing more of a Tampa 2 style. Met with head coach Matt Eberflus. He comes from that Rod Marinelli, Lovie Smith type tree. So that's what he believes in. That's what they're going to run. DC Allen Williams, he hasn't called plays since I think 10 years. So this will be the first time calling plays on defense in a long time. But again, he's a long-time coach, been in the scheme a long time. He should be fine there. But as far as the secondary goes, Eddie Jackson returns, Jalen Johnson returns. Those guys are obviously good for you. And then the other safety right now is rookie Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. He's pretty much, I thought he'd be plug and play, but he got in early. I mean, the OTAs, he's with the ones through minicamp. He's their starting safety now. The other corner, I think at some point it'll be the other rookie, Kyler Gordon out of Washington. Just the talent's there. I mean, from what they had a year ago, he's such an upgrade, but he's got a minor injury he's trying to work it through. But I think once it's all said and done, that's your guy. And then Thomas Graham was rookie a year ago, barely played. When he did play, he flashed. But, of course, the coaching staff put him back on the bench because they wanted the vets back out there. But Thomas Graham has been running with the ones at nickel. So it's going to be a new secondary for the Bears. It should be better because the arrow has a lot of way to go up based off last season's production.
How about against the run? How does this team shape up against the run?
Yeah, it's like I said, we talk about it's a Tampa 2 style defense. So it's one gaps. They want to free things up. They want to penetrate with the 3 tackle. They brought in Justin Jones from the Chargers. Roquan Smith is still there. He's going to be flying all over the place. So they made some nice moves up front here. They lost Akeem Hicks. They lost Eddie Goldman. So they lost some beef up front. But I think the Bears are content with what they have there. And if they can keep Roquan Smith clean, he's going to make a lot of plays again.
Oh man, you gave such a great breakdown, Lester. I can't thank you enough. This is awesome. We talked a little Mexican food last year.
We did.
Anything you tried or any recent favorites that you want to highlight? Any dishes you're?
I will mention there's a taco truck. I don't know the name of it, to be honest with you, but I work downtown Chicago during the week, a couple days a week, and part of my job I have to go to the courthouse. And on my walk there, every now and then I see the taco truck parked under the L. And when I see it, I'm like, okay, I got to come back and for lunch because the next time I talk to you, I'll have that name for you. But man, it's under the L. It's right in the loop. Anyone in Chicago knows this place. It's just a taco truck. It's just you see it. I mean, pretty much whenever you see a food truck, you got to try it anyway.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
This one is like it's money.
Especially the carne asada. Some of the best carne asada I've ever had, other than what my mom makes,
Yeah.
is the one that is the ones from the taco trucks. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is better than the restaurants. I mean, they just really make a specialization. So, yeah, you got, yeah, you know what? When you find it, send me a DM, tweet
Okay.
at me, whatever.
Yeah.
I always love to hear about good tacos, my brother.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you again. Thank you again. I so appreciate it. Lester, please plug away anything you want.
Yeah, I'm at WindyCityGridiron.com, Chicago Bears all the time. Our video channel, which is the video home to our podcast, is at Second City Gridiron. And of course, you mentioned I got a couple shows on the channel myself. T for Manchester Conversation. Then of course I co-host Bear and Balanced, and just got a lot of Bear stuff coming up. Obviously it's Bears all the time for us, but we're excited with the direction our podcast, our video, and the site are heading right now.
Awesome, my friend. Oh, I so appreciate your time,
Anytime, my
and
friend.
and thank you for helping me fill the space until training camp is going on. So,
Yeah.
como esto, as I love to say in Spanish, esto fue un gran placer, just an incredible pleasure.
Awesome.
And familia, again, please make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com. Go to Familia, put in the promo code Familia22, Familia22 in Spanish. Get your 10% off. Also, again, please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We're pushing 100 subscribers, so we want to be able to change our URL. Also, make sure you go into my Twitter at Jorge Martin 17. I push out all the content. We're going to keep this NFL Insider Series going. We're going to be doing this all the way through the month of July, and maybe a couple in August. Teams that want to go a little bit later. Again, also make sure you go to get us Familia FFP wherever you get your podcast, Familia. And again, otra vez to our guest, so much thank you, and everybody, thank you for watching. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.